Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Fly Free Bird podcast. I am here with an extremely special guest. This is Miss Iris, and we actually call her Moogie, but she has known me my whole life, and she is at the vibrant age of 93, living alone still as an independent woman, and I'm honored to have her on because I think this Miss Moogie, or Iris, will give us a lot of life wisdom and life advice. So we'll see where this goes. Welcome, Moogie.
Hi.
Hi. Just be yourself. It's going to be fine. It's going to be great.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So I'm happy you're here. And let's start this out with, okay, if you look back at all your life until now, if your life was a book, what do you think you would title it? Whatever comes to your mind first.
Insecurity, not totally having enough self-esteem or value of what I had to say.
Okay.
So I had that in my mind that whatever was my opinion was strictly only my opinion.
Okay.
So never had, I think, the self-confidence that I should have had because I was very curious about everything. Mm-hmm. But I didn't have that confidence because I didn't meet a lot of people who wanted to listen. Mm-hmm. Mostly it's just from a big family and being, the second from the bottom, 7 kids.
Right.
That anybody really care about what I had to say. Wow. So I didn't have the self-confidence of sharing. Uh-huh. And I felt like, that's what you think, Iris, but
right.
That's not really it. So it was kind of dismissed.
Uh-huh.
So mentally, I didn't hold it other than a failure, rather than self-confidence.
Okay.
But I knew what I was feeling, and my faith in religion started going to a Baptist church.
Okay.
And we're all an area full of foreigners, and my parents came from Armenia, both of them, and so it was really unusual setting because it was people from so many different countries that all settled in one part of Granite City, Illinois.
Wow.
And they called us Hungry Hollow because they were all foreigners, and all those that were already there, and we came in as foreigners.
Wow.
So they didn't like us, and we didn't understand them.
Right.
And so it was a poor beginning.
Uh-huh.
So we had a lot to work with.
Were all you and your siblings born, though, here? In the U.S., in Illinois?
In Illinois. We lived in an area where all were immigrants.
Okay.
And they worked in the steel foundries, which was hiring like crazy, all the foreigners. And so it was not just Armenians. They were, I can name you all the different countries, but they were all from different countries, Hungary and Hungarians and Macedonians and Greeks and Syrians. It was a mixture. And they named it Hungry Hollow because we were hungry Armenians who were, the genocide were calling hungry because a lot of the American parents would say, eat your meal. And they say, I don't want to. And they say, well, eat your meal because there's people in Armenia who are going hungry.
Right.
And they'd say, well, then send it to Armenia. They didn't understand.
Yeah.
So we had a very, very hard time getting used to. My parents, my mother and father got married in Constantinople, and they came on a ship.
Okay.
But my dad, his cousin lived in Granite City, and he sent him money, my dad money, because everybody was going to all the different countries that would take him. I mean, they were being slaughtered by them, just... So all the different countries have Armenians in them because they're the ones who got us out of the genocide.
Wow. So your parents left during the genocide?
Oh, yes, because my dad, he never told me before, but everybody was... And mostly it was the children. The countries were taking a lot of the children that parents were killed. So they took their orphanages. And lots of countries, they all have a history of the Armenian orphanages from the genocide.
What year was the genocide?
I'm guessing.
Early what?
1919?
Wow.
Something close.
But your parents, did they know each other when they were in Armenia?
No way.
Oh, so
no
they
way.
came...
No, my father's cousin wrote him a letter and said,
Wow.
I want you to come to America. I'm going to send you money.
Yeah.
But bring yourself a wife and bring me one too.
Right. So where did he find
So my mother was only 14.
No.
But she didn't have, her father was killed in the, so it was just her mother and her three brothers, two brothers and a sister.
Wow.
So they couldn't all come.
Right.
And so the sister said, Mom, you got to let Roxy go because they could only, we won't have the chance. They maybe will be, she has an opportunity to go to America.
Right.
So they talked the mother to letting her daughter go.
Wow.
So my mother was only 14. She said, I was playing with dolls. I didn't know where I was going, but it was survival because of the woman. And they said, oh, and by the way, my cousin said to his cousin, oh, also, bring yourself a wife and bring me one too. So this lady was older than my mom. She had 3 children and a husband, but they were all killed by the Turks.
Oh,
so she was happy that somebody was going to take care of her. She was alone.
Right.
And so that's how my mother survived, was this widow lady who was like her mother.
Wow, so this widowed lady found your mom or knew your mom's family?
The people in town said, my dad was looking for a woman who wanted to go to America.
Yeah.
They said, well, there's a woman here whose husband and 3 children were killed by the Turks.
Jeez.
She has nowhere to go, nothing to do. So she wanted help.
Yeah.
And so my dad brought her to take for his cousin, not telling her any background.
Right. But then how did he find your mom?
The neighbors in the
Wow.
said, I'm looking for a wife, and I'm looking for a woman who's alone that wants to go to America.
Wow.
So he was searching.
Right.
And my mother says she used to go and hide at the neighbors because she had heard that they were looking for a wife to take to America. So she's 14. She's always playing with dolls.
So young.
I didn't want to leave my parents, but her sister said to her mother, Mom, we don't know how long we're going to be here. Aren't your daughter is having opportunity to go to America? Let her go.
Wow. Do you know what happened? Like to
and
her
to
family?
her family? Well, they moved to France. There were so many people from other countries coming and taking those that were, they made sure, killed as many Armenians as they could through the desert.
Yeah.
But the opportunity, and different countries were coming in and taking people to give them a place to live.
So do you know, did your mom ever get to connect with her parents again, like your grandparents?
I hate to tell you the answer to that question, but she lost her father.
Okay.
She only had 2 brothers and a sister and her mom.
Yeah.
And somebody from France took them to Lyon.
Okay.
So she went to America, and the rest of them,
wow,
people from all over the country, the world were
Yeah.
coming in and taking orphans
Wow.
and people who lost their husbands, because that's what they wanted. Turks wanted to do is they just wanted to get rid of all the Armenians. Babies, really didn't matter to them.
That's
So if you were lucky, did somebody say you want to go to America?
right, you go.
You didn't hesitate.
Wow.
And my cousin had the money
Yeah.
to send him.
Right.
And he didn't went to Ellis Island. They went second class to New York Harbor. They were very fortunate
Wow.
because we don't know if they would have gotten through Ellis Island. Many of them were
Really?
not accepted and had to leave.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, some that were sick only because of the ship
Wow.
were put in a facility to see if they would get well. If they were well enough to stay in America, they were. But there was a lot of them that were rejected.
Yeah. Jeez, that's really...
Yeah, so my dad, they came second class because my uncle had the money, and he said, do this.
So would it be more first class then, you think? You said second class, but would it be more first class?
I think that's a good question.
Yeah.
But they didn't go to Ellis Island. There was either you go to Ellis Island or you went to New York.
Okay, but New York Harbor seemed to let more people in, possibly?
Well, people who can afford the ticket.
Okay, so
Only ones that went to Ellis Island were those who had nowhere. They were orphans.
they were desperate. Yeah.
But a lot of them had a relative already in America. They were the lucky ones who had
Right.
passage
Wow.
with money.
So
And I was lucky.
Wow, yeah. So then your parents get here. It was basically an arranged marriage, really, right?
She didn't even have a choice.
Yeah,
Yes,
she had no choice.
And the other lady, she was going to get married, so I guess she was allowed
Yeah.
to go unmarried, but that somebody was waiting for her. They somehow worked it out so that my cousin,
Yeah.
she was going there to get married.
Wow. So do you think your mom ever loved your dad or vice versa? Or it was just like a
No,
partnership?
she was just a teenager.
Oh, man. But then had 7 kids?
Well, she wanted a boy, and she had a lot of girls. She had, the first one was, 15 years difference in their ages.
Wow.
And then she had 2 girls after that, but they both didn't die one after the other, but she had 2 girls that passed away.
Oh, man.
And then she had 2 that lived.
Uh-huh.
And then she had me, and then she had another girl.
Mm-hmm.
And she was became an invalid. She couldn't walk or talk.
Wow.
But she understood everything.
Yeah.
And then my dad wanted a boy. So they kept having kids, hoping they would have a boy. And they did have one boy,
Okay.
but he didn't live. He died of pneumonia.
Oh, jeez.
So
Do you remember this as a kid?
my mother told me all this.
Wow.
And then she said to my dad a few years in between, that she says, we're going to make a boy.
Mm-hmm.
That's how she termed it. We're going to make a boy today.
Today.
So she did have a boy after that one.
Wow.
And that was my brother George, and you met him.
Okay. Wow. So how many siblings survived then?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Wow. But you were the 5th one that made it.
Well, she was waiting for a boy.
Wow.
That's what Armenians were. They wanted to continue.
Yeah.
And they all wanted to marry their own nationality.
Right.
All of them.
Right. Do you feel that still to this day, Armenians are very strict about culture and marrying Armenians?
Well, because so many of the men were dead. I mean, there were so many that were... Well, that's everybody knows about the Armenian genocides from the Turks. They were not Christians, and we were one of the. It'll say in the dictionary, or if you searched, that the Armenians were the first nation that adapted Christianity. I saw that in the dictionary, but the Turks wanted to get rid of us because we were Christians.
Wow.
Those other countries were not Christians.
Wow.
They wanted to get rid of us because of being Christians.
Man.
That's why they didn't like the Armenians or want any part of the Armenians.
Because you guys adapted Christianity.
Oh, we gave our lives up.
Yeah.
They gave their lives up for it.
Right. Jeez.
Except those wonderful countries, and they named the countries that came to their...
Right. Rescue.
Yeah, never forget that. Never forget the love and help that came from so many different countries when they found out what the Turks were doing to the Armenians.
Yeah.
Yes, that was good part of the story.
Yeah, that's
so,
a good part of the
anyway,
story.
we just learned. They didn't know English at all, my parents.
Wow.
So can you imagine living in a house where your parents... I mean, I don't know who taught us English.
Yeah, so how did you learn?
Huh?
How do you think you learned?
I learned, well, because I was one of the youngest, so my sisters, they were that's a good question to ask my sisters. Who was teaching you? Because they had schools for them.
Yeah.
They had facilities for the foreigners of learning English to become citizens. So they got a lot of help from the government of helping them to adjust, to get jobs. Of course, that was easy because all the steel foundries were looking for.
Oh, okay.
So there was no problem about getting a job.
Wow.
But they were all in the steel foundries, all laborers.
Right.
Because they didn't speak English.
Wow.
And all the other national. Anyway, don't get me going on that because but it's interesting readings if you love history.
Yeah.
To know about the genocide. And there's books been written about the genocides that pick big people in politics.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the books that were written about the genocides.
Right.
And so the Turks have always had a bad reputation because they weren't Christians. I mean, they didn't, it's made sense for them to get rid of the Armenians.
Right.
Because they didn't have any competition.
Yeah.
With the, there was no competition. Those other countries around Armenia, lots of them, but they were Christians. We were the first nation to adapt Christianity. And if you wanted to confirm that, the information's out there.
Right. So now you're in the U.S., though, as a kid. Well, you've always been in the U.S., but as a kid, then, you always felt like your voice wasn't heard because you were, one of the youngest ones. So what's your first memory that you remembered you actually were able to be heard or to be seen?
Well, it was I don't know, they didn't really... My dad and I were slow eaters. We're always the last ones at the table.
So you've always been like
and
that.
And they never took, it's well, you and Dad, and I didn't get the attention because there was a lot of kids and there just wasn't a whole lot of time.
Right.
And except for my mom, she spoiled me because she knew how hard it was for me, learning English. And they didn't want to spend that much time with me, my older siblings, because I was, way down the line.
Okay, you were way down the line.
Yeah.
Oh, because they tried all those other kids and they didn't make it.
Well, they just didn't spend the time with me like my dad did. My dad and my mom, I had good relationships with them, and they took the time to talk to me. And the Christian Baptist church I went to.
Okay, wow.
When I was that age, learned a lot from that.
Wow.
Acceptance, faith. I went to the Armenian church, too, when we got one.
Okay.
But we didn't have one in the beginning. We went to a Baptist church.
Okay. Wow.
And we learned a lot from going to the Baptist church. They were just so wonderful to all the foreigners.
Yeah, that's so good.
Right, and then eventually they had enough money to buy this Hungarian church that they moved, and the Armenians bought it, and that became the Armenian church that we all went to.
Right.
But I remember my Baptist days, and I just always thank God for teaching the Armenians who were so needy.
Yeah.
Because the other side of where I grew up, they called us Hungry Hollow, made fun of us.
Yeah.
Threw rocks at us because we were foreigners.
They threw rocks at you guys.
Yes, and we called them Hoosiers.
Hoosiers.
Because that's what they were. I mean, there was a word that was used in English.
Wow.
So they would call us foreigners, and we ended up going to the same school together and became fast friends all the way through high school.
Okay. So
happy ending.
Good. That's a happy ending. Well, so then what brought you to California, and how old were you when you came out here? How old were you when you came out to California, and what brought you here?
Well, I got married to an Armenian that lived in, and he, because how should I put this? I met him when because he came from California. They settled in East St. Louis, and then they moved to California. And I didn't meet them until my husband came to my area.
Yeah.
I met him through the church, Armenian church. And I thought he was the person, and I wanted to marry an Armenian because my parents were Armenian. So there's a big influence.
Yeah.
But it was not a good
right?
it was not a good influence for me.
Right.
Because he came from California to where I lived.
Yeah.
And I remember always thinking about California.
Okay.
And when he told me he was from California, I was really interested in him.
Okay.
But we got married because I wanted to make my parents proud and happy of me, and everybody in town was invited, no matter what nationality you were.
Okay.
We all had weddings, and everybody was invited.
Wow, it's like a big party, huh?
Definitely. Each nationality, we all ate mostly Armenian food, but it was shared by so many nationalities. Yeah. And I think that's what happened to the foreigners is those who put a hand out to the foreigners and help them to learn and to...
Yeah.
So from there on, school was a big deal. And we ended up being buddies with these kids that were throwing rocks at us.
Oh. So there's hope. There's hope.
So, it really, the lessons... Knowing that you were rejected as a little kid,
right?
You couldn't totally understand it. But then when we went to school, is when we we didn't talk to each other,
right?
Because anyway, I'm not going to labor on that anymore. But it turned out to be great.
Right.
We went through high school together.
Wow, and you became friends.
Oh yeah, a lot of them married each other, and
yeah.
But Harry. He was a new guy in town.
Okay.
And he was really good looking. And he came from California. And that was really, because I thought, and then when he joined, when we stayed in where I was with my folks, and then he joined the Air Force, and we ended up not really having a lot in common.
Uh-huh.
And, I said, you know what, it's not working.
Yeah.
And you're not, I don't feel safe with you. Right. I don't feel loved by you.
Yeah.
And so I says, why don't you just put in for transfer? He did. He was in the Air Force. He joined the Air Force. And he joined the Air Force, and then when he came home one day and he said, I got my transfer.
Right.
I said, oh, where are you going? Guess what?
Yeah.
He said, California.
Right.
That was it. I said, forget the divorce. We're going to California.
Wow.
And it didn't last too long in California. My kids were like 5 and 7.
Okay.
When it was not good. He was...
But did you have the kids before you went to California?
Oh, no. I had the children in California.
Wow.
And he just didn't treat me like I was worthy. And it was not happy for me at all.
Yeah.
And then I found out he had a girlfriend, and
geez.
that did it.
Yeah.
Because I would have stayed for my children. I wanted my kids to have a father.
But good for you for even at that time. That was probably taboo to get divorced, right? And to leave. Most women probably would have just turned...
No, because we were not only doing that for ourselves, but we were hurting our families by getting a divorce. And that was a shameful thing to do at that time.
But you did it because you
I had
knew
to,
your worth.
for my kids.
For your kids.
They were not getting what they needed. Wow. And I said, you know what? You're going to have to go to work, Iris, and you're going to have this. But you know what? That's not the way you want to raise your kids. You want a father that's going to be just...
Wow.
And you want to be loved.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel secure with him anymore.
Right. So you got out of it. You broke free.
I know, and that was a biggie.
That wasn't doing you any good.
No. So that, God was with me.
Yeah.
And I got strength from that.
Yeah.
And my Baptist teachings taught me that it's okay. You love the Lord, and he was not like feeling towards the Lord like I was.
Yeah.
Which was a huge change.
Right.
No, that was not going to work for me, because when we would, what showed me for sure that I didn't want to raise my children with this guy is when we went to church, he was not there.
Right.
And he didn't feel like I did about praising the Lord.
Yeah.
And I said, how could I stay with this person who doesn't love the Lord, and he's not even listening?
Right.
So I said, I can't raise my daughters with somebody who doesn't love the Lord.
Well, and he didn't love you if he had a girlfriend, right?
But then I found out these other, but that was saying,
oh, so
this
that was
is not
the
a
first
good life.
Time. Wow.
It was that when I found out that he had somebody else.
Wow.
That I said, Asfa.
Does that mean, what does that mean?
No, this is not all just about me. It's about my 2 daughters.
Yeah.
And if he can't give me the time, you know what, he could even visiting them. So I did the right thing.
Yeah, you did.
Even though they still carry sadness.
Right.
But he said he couldn't do this anymore, coming to visit them. It was too hard on him.
Wow.
So I knew I did the right thing.
Wow. When did he stop visiting them?
Oh, they were like... Oh, when they were like 5 and young, very young.
Yeah.
So they carry the scars. They know.
Yeah.
But he did keep in touch.
Right.
But not like a father.
Yeah.
He was not part of their life.
Wow.
So anyway, enough of him.
Yeah, enough of him. So you broke free from that marriage, but that marriage got you to California, and then you broke free, from this not healthy marriage for you. So after you broke free from the marriage, like, what were the steps you took to gain your independence and your voice?
Job was number 1.
Yeah.
And he, when we went to court about, I don't want to bring my nationalities in on this, but the judge told me how much I was going to get, and I said, what? I mean, like, are you serious? How can I raise 2 kids on that amount of money?
Yeah.
He says, what I read here, he doesn't make that much.
Right.
But I'm not going to give you any details about that.
Yeah. So you didn't get the money you should have.
Oh, that's right.
So how did you make it work as a single mom?
Well, I was, I had to get out and get a job.
Yeah.
And it was really, because we had a home, we had a home. So I worked while I was single before the kids.
Yeah.
So I had a job.
Yeah.
I know about when it took to take a job.
Yeah.
So that was the easiest part, is that I did work, and then when I came home, I had to give him my check. I went, whoa, wait a minute. So I knew then there was nothing here.
Oh, so
I wasn't.
You were working and providing before the kids.
Yeah. So he didn't love the Lord like I did.
Yeah. Right.
And I wanted my children to grow up going to church.
Yeah. Wow.
So that was wrong. And I said, Oswald, you just gotta help me.
Yeah.
And when you have faith, it gives you strength.
I agree.
And then when then God puts certain people in front of you. And your mom was one of the ladies that helped.
Wow.
Been friends for how many years did I tell you?
Long time. What, since 68?
Is when we first... Anyway, her and one other lady, I still am friends with them, and I had them when I was working and supporting myself, my children. And they're still in my life.
Right.
We don't vote the same, but you know what? We love each other.
Yeah. Because
we've been there for each other. We didn't talk about anything that was negative, but just helping each other.
Wow.
So I was blessed.
Right. So they helped you get through that.
They were always there. And we laughed about you don't cry if you have friends that are having problems themselves. You become a family.
Yeah.
And they were still a family.
Right.
And I love that, because nothing is more important than putting each other first.
Right.
The needs, the help they needed. When you put that first and your faith, you're going to succeed.
Yeah.
So I was blessed.
So it sounds like it's your friends and your faith that got you through those hard times.
Yes, I felt safe.
Wow.
And they were there for me.
Yeah.
We laugh about it now, but
yeah.
Those were without God, I don't know how in the world. I know that people have survived not knowing, and I always pray for them. Right. Because that's the basis of our being. Right. And I feel so blessed, and I pray for those who don't know him, because if you don't know him, you don't even know where you're going. You're walking down a road that you don't even know what the next step's going to put you into. Yeah. But when you have faith and you pray about it, he gives you strength. Right. That's what keeps you going.
That's beautiful.
Well, it's the truth, and today is a world of nothing but anger and hate. Yeah. And I pray for that all, because they've lost the road. You follow him, you're going to be safe.
Yeah. I mean, my whole mission is to really spread love and kindness with this platform, because there's too much negativity out there right now that the people I have on, I want words of wisdom and light and stories to help others break free. But for you as a young woman, breaking free from a marriage that wasn't serving you and making it on your own back then, that's such a big deal. And the fact
Yeah.
that you're still on your own, living independently, like, I find that so admirable.
Well, I got help from these two people that
Yeah.
were my sisters,
Wow.
and Faith.
Yeah.
My Christian my relationship with the Christian church, because we didn't have the Armenian church, they didn't have it then. So this was my beginning, and everything was to do with the Lord. And knowing that He loved me, and we felt it, and I just still today, the woman she was Baptist from the South, and she was so devoted to all of us foreign kids. And she gave us so much love and attention. We learned so much from her. So it didn't matter if we got rocks thrown at us from the other side.
Right.
She was there, and she taught us about the Lord. And that's how we all became brothers and sisters. I don't care what nationality the others were.
Yeah.
We were all,
Yeah.
we would walk into, we just would not even knock on the door. We just, the doors were open for us. That's what made all the difference in the world, is knowing the Lord.
Yeah.
And having that system. And even to go into, with people that were throwing rocks at you, to be lifetime friends.
Yeah. To get over that, find common ground, and actually come to really like each other and like love each other like a family.
Yeah, I mean, we were family. That's the good word.
Wow.
Yeah, and if you don't have someone who listens with their heart and has compassion, and does not have things that they would teach you, and that was of honesty, unconditional love, unconditional friendship.
Yeah.
We had all the right, and God put us all together.
Right.
And so I just, everything, just like this one lady that I worked for with the telephone company, and I said to her, how are you able to be such a normal person like you were before you had the baby, and now that you've lost the baby, I just have to hear from you.
Yeah.
What has kept your sanity, your love for all these people. We were all in one big huge room, all the women, all women working there. And she says, well, that's because I love the Lord.
Wow.
And He helped me. That was a biggie for me.
Wow.
To hear her, because to me, I couldn't imagine anybody handling that.
Because she lost a baby.
Yes. And she was normal after, because her faith was so strong that she says it was God's will.
Wow. I admire those people.
Yes, I had a lot of respect for her after that. And she also taught me a lesson.
What was that?
Faith.
Yeah.
She made that even greater. That made it more important. She was sharing faith with me. And it was nice when you can meet somebody that you can feel comfortable with.
Right.
Of talking about faith.
Yeah. Yeah.
It kept you on the right track.
Right. And it got you here today. I mean, look at you. Like, what do you think the secret's faith, obviously, right?
Definitely. Well, my mother, her attitude of leaving her family, never seeing her mother again, but did see her sister and a brother.
Okay.
My sister Suzanne, after she was able to pay for she did it. She made sure that my mother went and because my mother was devoted to her children, and they never cried to go back or any of that.
Yeah.
She
was just a child herself when she left.
But the lady that was with her had lost 3 children. So she was the best. Now, who did that? God did that. And without her, I don't know how my mother would have turned out.
Wow.
But this woman, because she lost 3 children that way, she took care of my mom like she was one of her children.
Yeah.
They lived together under the same roof, and she was there with my mother the whole time.
Wow.
Until they were able to find a place for their own. They lived together.
Wow.
2 families.
Interesting.
So God was looking out for her. So I saw so many answers to God's love and caring. And the troubles of not being wanted. Mm-hmm. In another country, you're in a country where I was old enough to not go through what my sisters all went through. They're the ones who had to learn English, and they're the ones who had to hear, But once we got connected, and we felt, the Lord brought us all together.
Wow.
And so that's why I'm really not a fanatic, person. Some people are just, accept anybody. And if they're not on the same page as I am about Christian, they're either, I'm not going to try to win them over, but by my friendship with them, they would know who I was. Mm-hmm. And you would know them by their behavior.
Right.
And if they had the Lord and they believed in. So it was a connection that we spread around to everybody who was in a bad situation. Right. Nobody was really, except the people downtown who lived downtown. I forgot about them. They didn't allowed to come to the foreigner area.
Yeah.
They were not allowed to go. They kept away from us, the Hoosiers and the foreigners. So if anybody...
Are the Hoosiers like the local people, or...?
They were from the South.
Okay.
Mostly from the South. Yeah. Because probably we called them Hoosiers from Tennessee.
Okay. I don't know. This is...
Yeah, that's who Hoosiers were. They were not imports.
Wow.
I mean, they were from the South of the United States.
Okay. Wow.
That's why they were called Hoosiers.
Right. Interesting.
But it's in faith had everything to do with the turnarounds.
Yeah.
And how even the downtown people, we all ended up to be best friends.
Yeah. Wow. That's beautiful, though.
Yeah, I mean, I used to go to my reunions, in Granite City, and I always kept in touch with them.
Yeah.
And my coming from California all the way there was a big deal.
Right. No, that is a big deal.
It was, and so I learned a lot from that connection. And had you gone your own ways and not having those, I believe in those reunions for school, because you remembered the good times and it was reunited.
Yeah.
And we were all like we're still in high school.
Yeah, right. That's so nice.
Because we had enough respect for friends.
Yeah.
And not thinking we were better than them. Those who appeared at the reunions, you knew they were your true friends, and those are the ones that you would want to be with. And we would write to each other, and I would just, if I didn't go, I always send a letter.
Right. That's nice.
So, it all starts with
how you grew up in faith. And
it doesn't have to be faith to know of caring for one another, regardless which road we were taking, you still had compassion for them.
Yeah.
So that to me is faith. And when you treat that person like they belong to you.
Yeah.
And you felt good because God made he automatically made you feel good.
Yeah.
Because you followed his road.
Right.
Because I always say, keep me on that road. I want to stay on that road, that I don't make a prejudgment.
Yeah.
And then if somebody doesn't like me, I have to accept that because they're not going to take that away from me. Mm-hmm. So all I can do is, my one choice is pray for them.
Yeah.
Because they need that prayer. Mm-hmm. So why should I turn my back on them? Then I'm not a good Christian to turn my back to them.
Right.
So when God, I just felt like, because I love the Lord so, and I just felt like he did that for me.
Yeah.
Something good would happen, or I got a good sense. I always said, God did that for me. Mm-hmm. So how could I be that close to him if I didn't treat other people in fairness?
Yeah. Well, I think that's a really good point on how to live life.
Yes.
Is you have faith within, but you're showing other people the love that you're receiving from the Lord. Even if they don't know the Lord, you are giving love, right?
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Because they finally realized, that's a pretty good, I like that person. Why am I throwing rocks at that person? Because, we ended up all to be friends.
Right.
So I think it was our behavior of wanting to be wanted, because we knew we were foreigners. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to be friends with them.
Right.
So when we showed a different side,
right,
they woke up and gave us an opportunity. When we started going to school, we had to be together. Mm-hmm. So we learned a lot about, what are you going to do? Are you going to accept that person or not? We end up finding that it was more fun to be friends.
Right. See, it shows that people from different backgrounds and different beliefs can still come together, right? And that's humanity. And I think we need more of that these days, because I believe we're more similar than we are different. So why not focus on that loving part?
Exactly. Because they don't, it's just, you have to have that compassion.
Yeah.
You yourself, a lot of people will not admit it. Some will deny, because they don't want to be told to do. But I saw the righteousness of going to the Baptist church. Mm-hmm. Everybody was having fun. We were laughing. There was so much love and goodness.
Yeah.
But these people, a lot of people avoid it with all their,
right.
Say, no, I can't. What do you mean you can't? Did you try?
Yeah.
But they say, no. So they shut it out. And I knew from my beginning about church, you don't do that and say you love the Lord. You are lost. And if I can show you in any little way, and that was my attitude, and I knew what it felt like to be ignored and be made fun of. Mm-hmm. So I didn't want to be one of those people that made somebody else feel sad.
Right.
So it's all a matter of what you want to accept and what you don't. And I don't believe that if you're refusing it, you're denying your own self of goodness.
Yeah.
And I think it's sad. That's who I pray for. Uh-huh. You're denying yourself. Don't deny yourself, because he's there. He's waiting for you to accept him.
Right.
Anyway, I'm getting carried away with religion because I feel like every part of my life has a connection to it.
Right.
So it's like, what's your life about? Well, it's about believing that no matter what you do, God will always forgive you of what you feel guilty of not doing the right thing. Mm. So when you feel that God has made these changes, and the things that I've changed my mind about is all because I listened and followed that road that He
Yeah.
takes you to goodness and sympathy and compassion for those who are different than you.
Right. Well, what advice would you give to those people who don't have faith, or they seem to get scared with that word or God? What would you tell them right now?
Well, I had a connection very young in life of the church.
Okay.
So I didn't have to search for it as an adult who had a lot of different things going around that she has seen and heard. So it was harder for people who have not had that experience of the Lord. You know, that was my wonderful beginning.
Yeah.
And watching that was my gift from the Lord. These people who were raised in a different environment, I pray for them all the time because I had an easier time of accepting the Lord. And those who haven't had that opportunity but have only seen chaos in their families, issues that they don't know that there's been a lot of good issues. They've only been exposed to bad issues.
Yeah.
And I pray for them all the time because it's so hard to reach them whenever there's so much evil.
Right.
That all you have to do, just keep praying.
Yeah.
And praying for them.
But
and not
what-
giving up hope.
But what if someone was sitting next to you right now that didn't believe, or just to lift them up, what would you say?
Well,
To
I
give
can
them
give you
hope.
one example that why I've taken this role. I've heard so much negativism toward. I have personally accepted, and coming to this country, and people with different nationalities. Well, I remember one thing that I did that I knew that God was doing it with me. Because I knew Him, I was able to be in a department store, and in a very fancy area of Newport Beach,
Yeah.
and I would see very few black people in there. And knowing what it's like to be avoided, and not to have part with. When I did this, and I really felt like I was led to. This one lady was there in the shoe department looking for a pair of shoes, and she was black, and I kept observing her and walking around, and she's on my mind, okay?
Yeah.
I'm walking around, and nobody's going by her. She's sitting alone, and all of a sudden, God says, go talk to her. I was motivated by knowing God, and that how it felt like to be alone,
Yeah.
and being like you weren't there.
Yeah, like invisible.
You were invisible.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, why can't they even sit close to her? So God said, go say hello to her. And I did, and she was like leery. She wasn't sure what I
Yeah.
was, what
Right.
I won.
Yeah.
And then I didn't try to convert anybody. I just was being friendly.
Yeah.
And I said, how do you like to shoot? And I was making conversation.
Right.
But she was being avoided. And she didn't hear it.
Yeah.
I wanted her, and I wasn't trying to convert her. I
Yeah.
just wanted her to know there was somebody who notices you
Yeah.
and is feeling for you.
Yeah.
And by my appearance to her, that she would feel better.
Yeah.
That she would know that she was special.
Right.
That I'm not like anybody else, and there are people who do love you and who.
Yeah.
And I wanted her to not go away sad. It just hurt me to watch her.
Right.
And I've done that more than once.
Yeah.
And every time it's worked out for me. Because sometimes some of them didn't respond to me when I was trying to talk to him. A black lady. And once she saw that I was not judging her, and I was just talking to her like I would to anybody.
Yeah.
She warmed up. And it was very emotional for me because I didn't just assume something, but I gave it a try.
Yeah.
And that's only because Miss Lambert, that was a Christian lady that taught us all of this, those things came back. They're just like a broken record.
Right.
That person is sad to you. Go say hello.
Right.
Or just say hello, period.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just so grateful that I had that in my life. And there's so much sadness because of not accepting him.
Yeah.
And if we have that, anything could be yours if you just follow. Follow him. And he's waiting to go down his road. And you just say, Lord Jesus, help them. Lots of these don't want to be where they are. And I just pray always that just a hello would mean a lot.
Yeah.
Don't ignore that you didn't see that person.
Yeah.
Or ignore them. They could feel it.
Right.
So I didn't want that for them.
No.
So that's my inspiration of my outlook about life.
Yeah.
And I just feel so sad because America is not America that I remember.
Right.
It was, but it didn't last.
Yeah.
This is things that you didn't see doing growing up.
Right. Right.
And to see, breaks my heart.
Yeah.
And God just tells me, he understood where I was, but don't let it change you. Do what feels good for you, and that is saying hello, have a good day.
Yeah.
Just letting them know you're worthy. Yeah. And I'm saying hello to you because I want to say hello to you.
You want to say hi.
I want them to walk away wherever they're going and remember that and what I would talk, I would not preach to them. No way.
Just be kind.
I was just being kind, and I was being friendly with nothing an issue to try to change that person.
Yeah.
I just said I was your friend.
Right.
That's what I wanted them to understand and take away with them.
Yeah.
That I'm not any better than you. We're the same.
Right.
And if I could feel when they would respond to me, I could cry when I think about the times this has happened. Or in the very beginning, they didn't really want to converse with me.
Yeah.
But when they changed, I was such a happy lady. Because I felt like I was doing that. God knew that I really loved the Lord and was following him. If I would have ignored her, then I was being phony to myself.
Yeah.
I know what it's like.
Yeah.
And I want them to walk away smiling. And we would always be friends when we left. We didn't just have a speech. We acknowledge each other's connection.
Exactly.
And I went away happy, and I felt so good that God was believing my faith.
Yeah.
Because I showed it to him.
Right.
I didn't just go to church on Sundays.
Right. You were living it out.
There you go. That's a good expression. I was living it.
Yeah.
And I was gaining from it.
Yeah. Well, I think people are so afraid these days just to even say hello, when a hello or a smile could change someone's day, could change someone's life, really.
That's what that was my intent, that whenever I got through talking to them, I just prayed, Lord Jesus, I hope they remember our conversation and go away with smiles, told me my answer.
Yeah.
Because if they didn't respond, I would still talk to them.
Right.
But I would be real polite.
Yeah.
But when I got conversations back, answers back, I was a better person. I was happier. So it wasn't I was doing that for that. It was what I wanted to.
Right.
Because I knew what it
to
hurt.
do.
Well, what it feels like to be denied.
To be the outsider, to be ignored, to not be seen.
See, this is what's missing. This country is the worst. We don't give each other chances.
Yeah.
Give them a chance. Say hello. What's it going to cost you?
Right.
It's so rewarding.
Yeah.
You go away, you're smiling yourself.
It's like we need to go back to the basics of having a human connection and conversation with someone. Everyone is so afraid. Everyone's on their phones. They won't even smile at, like, even their neighbor, you know? Do you even know your neighbor's name?
No.
You probably know the dog that lives with the neighbor's name, but you don't know the neighbor's name. I mean...
And at the same time, I pray for them because at my growing up, I didn't see a lot of this horrible stuff that's going on with the drugs and so many things that I never exposed to. But I just know that they were segregated.
Right.
And so these people who are facing all this, they're lost too. Those who know better, because they have to know that to be ready to accept. Because it's not the thing to do. Mm-hmm. If you do it, you're of another class. But if you're with the Lord and you have that faith, and I've had experience of being denied.
Right.
So I pray for those who are afraid to give them a chance.
Right.
You'll be surprised. I think to myself, oh Lord, let them feel their pain.
Right.
Because it will, you always get rewarded. God always is there for you.
When you pay attention and listen. Yeah.
I'm talking too much. I'm just going on with certain things that are so important to me.
Yeah, that's what this is all about. Like, what's important to you and how have you, gotten this far in life and you're still here and you're still...
I know, and I ask him, Lord, why am I still here? I'm ready for you, and I am, and I don't want to go until I get things squared away with those who's still doubtful.
Yeah.
I don't feel like, maybe that's what God is saying. I'm not going to call you until you straighten that out. So maybe I'm answering my own question of
right.
Why am I not bringing it up? And I've had chances, but I didn't want to hurt them.
Right. But obviously you're here for a reason still. So you need to realize that.
Exactly.
Keep shining your light and resolve any conflicts that are still out there that you feel in your heart that you want to, amend, right?
Right, because when you love somebody, you don't want them to be unhappy. And you have inspired me to speak the truth.
Go ahead.
And to accept the fact that you are trying to please you and her, but if you don't do what your heart tells you to do, it's never going to be resolved. And you are going to take away something from them by not giving them the truth. And you have to just accept the fact that you're not doing the right thing, Iris. By being afraid of being rejected, more so than I'm already rejected. But maybe you're being rejected because you're not being honest with her.
Right. There you go. I think you've got some homework to do.
Yes.
See, just life lessons being learned here.
Yeah, but if not for you, I would keep convincing myself and I don't like to share, but I have shared with you a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And you have given me the courage to know that avoiding that I'm only adding to the problem. But if you don't try it, you don't know if it's going to work or not.
You don't know.
And nothing has worked up to now, so how do you know that they won't accept? Just because she hasn't doesn't mean she won't.
Exactly. I think what you're saying is like you feel like your sadness is a burden to others because they're going through, in your terms, like harder times. But I believe like everyone has sadness and goes through hard times, but no one really knows. So I think if we go back to your beginning message of just being kind to one another, because no one knows like the burdens people are carrying, because probably so many people don't know what you're going through and thinking you're just great and loved and everything's fine, but
and I have not shared it with everybody, only just certain people.
Yeah, so I think, you know, kind of to wrap this portion up is like believing, like having faith, but leading with love, you know, because that's all we can do. Everyone has burdens. Everyone has sadness, right? So how can we just show love to other people to lift them up? Because they're probably hurting too. Even if, like, on the outside they look like everything is fine. Right. So I guess in these, we already know your next steps of writing the letter and doing all that stuff, but, like, what's one piece of advice from 93 years that you would want to share with people, like the world? Like how to be remembered. What would you want to be remembered by, and your advice you would give?
Kindness.
Yeah.
But that's what has kept. You have to have that inside your soul to believe in the Lord with all your heart and soul and really follow what He tells you instead of erasing it after you hear it.
Yeah. Yeah. Following that nudge, right? Because I think if you erase that feeling or that nudge, that's when you really are unhappy, because you're not living your life authentically to who you are meant to be. Good.
And if we don't do that for each other, give them a little leeway.
Yeah.
And love the Lord and know that God is helping you to decide. But sometimes you need to really listen closely and not say, bring your own answer to what He's trying to get through to you. Like He's trying to say, write the darn letter.
There you go.
And so that's what I'm grateful for right this moment. I wanted just you to know that all those years being with you guys are just nothing but fun memories.
Good.
Yes. And I pray that God will answer my prayers about my relationships and how I feel about you. And you're just family.
Yeah.
And that's when I hear my friends writing me cards, and when they say, you're like my mom. And a lot of them call me mom.
Yeah.
And one is, and they really don't realize how important what they call me and what they say. And I go, whoa, do they really mean that?
Yeah, of course they do.
No, but I'm not there yet.
See, that's what you've got to work on.
That's
your insecurity and actually allow yourself to receive the love that you are getting.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe whenever God puts you through certain negatives, He gives you that memory.
Yeah.
So that you don't lose your way.
Yeah.
And I haven't lost my way because I have you, and I totally feel related to you.
Well, I always say you're like my grandma / auntie, aunt / grandma.
That's such a compliment for me.
Yeah.
And because you can say thank you, But when you feel it,
Yeah.
like when they call me that name, then I know
Yes.
they mean it.
Well, I think it's been great. I enjoyed hearing your story, and I'm here for you. And I hope that you take the inspired action you need to take to get to where you want to go. And I just want to thank you for being here. And
Thank you.
I don't want you going anywhere soon, but it's all in God's timing.
Right, but what you have made me totally realize and accept is that I have a job to do.
You've got a job
And
to do.
until I do that job that God keeps reminding me of, He's not going to say, okay, you can come now.
Yeah.
And now that I totally understand that my job here is not complete,
Yes.
and I have to be honest and realize that they're hurting you, but they're hurting too.
Yeah.
So unless I do this or what God is waiting for me to do, and I'm admitting it to you because that's how I feel,
Yeah.
that I'm so comfortable with you. I feel a loyalty and a true love that inspires me to listen and totally set my goals with your advice.
Good. Well, I'm glad I can be of service, Moogie.
What didn't
Cheers to Fly
Well,
Free
it's
Bird.
a-
She's
it's a-
flying at 93. Here we go. See what happens next.
Yes, okay.
Okay.
I know what I have to do.
Good.
Thank
Salud.
you.
Hi, guys. It's me, Katie. Thank you so much for listening. I am so excited to announce that I am launching Fly Free Bird one-on-one coaching, designed to help you break free, rediscover joy, and simplify your life so you can live more authentically. If you're feeling the pull, I'd love to connect. DM me on Instagram at flyfreebirdpodcast or email me at flyfreebirdpodcast@gmail.com for more information. Make it a beautiful day, keep shining your light, and let's fly.